immediately. Okay, so my name is Juliana, and this is a mentorship program that we run. Juliana Imam, Intellectual Property and Creative Consult. And the mentorship is basically to help young lawyers and also to help students who study law, and even those who are not lawyers but are interested in intellectual property, to understand what intellectual property is about. And so in our midst here, we have people who are in, I think, 500 level. We have people who are already practicing, and we also have people who are running their masters. So it's like a breed of people at different stages in the IP space. And this internship program, the way we run it is that we actually have them to put in their assignments, and then we have mentors that come in and listen to their assignments and try to give pointers on what they can do. But for some of the sessions, we also bring in guest mentors that would actually teach. So not like teach basically, but would explain like from their own perspective, different topics. And then with those topics, those who are the mentees will then get to ask questions. And so for about 2 or 3 years, I've been following Iredumare for a very long time, at least for about 2 to 3 years. And I've been seeing the things that he has been posting online. And I know that he's someone that is very skilled when it comes to music and music business and all that. And I'm also part of his entertainment law WhatsApp group, where it's not so easy to even join, by the way. So I decided to reach out to him for him to at least come and teach, not just the mentees, but also myself, like on the practicality of music business and music law. One of the things that I've come to discover is that a lot of people in this IP space has or have book knowledge. So we study a lot from books. We study a lot from watching things online, watching YouTube videos, etc. But not everybody can actually go into like the practicality of what music business is all about. And so that's the major reason why I have brought him here to come and educate us. And so I would also want to say that everybody that is here try to sorry, let me mute myself here. So everybody that is here should just try to sorry, let me reduce this. Everybody should try to put down their questions and make sure that once he's done with the introduction and is able to give a brief summary about what music business is about and music law is about, that we get to ask our questions, because I know that not everyone has this opportunity to interface with someone who is in the day-to-day practice of music law and business. So I would quickly get his profile and I would read it out so that we know the caliber of person that would be speaking to us today. So Iredumare Opeyemi is a graduate of Obafemi Awolowo University, Nigeria, LLB, and University of Strathclyde, Glasgow, LLM. He is a legal practitioner in Nigeria with years of experience in intellectual property, internet, telecommunication law, and policy. Ire, as he's fondly called, is a cyberspace, media, and entertainment researcher. He's also keen in music, film, and television, digital rights and personal data protection, intellectual property, creative financing, media advocacy, and information literacy on the digital space. He prides himself on being an expert in identifying root challenges and creating specific market territory based solution to internet-enabled businesses in Africa. Iredumare has experience in facilitating multi-million dollar deals for his clients in content licensing, music and film acquisition, intellectual property valuation, as well as developing music business models for government, digital content distribution companies, digital music service providers, filmmakers, film producers, music publishers, collective management organizations, record labels, aggregators, and artists in the sub-Sahara Africa creative industry. He currently works for MTN Group as head of licensing and partnership music service, where he oversees licensing of intellectual properties from record labels, artists, publishers, collective management organizations. He finds joy in investing in startups, feeding animals on the farm, and spending his free time finding solutions to community challenges. So, without taking much of our time, I would like to introduce Ire, and I would like to say thank you very much for accepting this opportunity and for saying yes. So thank you very much, Ire. Please, you have the stage.
Hi, everyone, and hi, Juliana. It's glad to be here, and I mean, it's also beautiful to be among lawyers.
Thank you.
Once again, my name is Iredumare, and I mean, you can call me Ire. I'm sorry, pardon me, I'm a shy person. Where should I start from? Should I just start receiving questions, or should I just go about a more practical view of what I'm
Okay. Yes. You can just give a brief history of how you got into let's just say IP or music, etc., and then flow from there to how you started, like the practicality of moving from the book knowledge to the practical side of IP practice, and then what you've seen so far. So about 2025, then they can begin asking the questions.
Okay. Hi, once again, hello everyone. I started my career from a more practical view. As an undergraduate when I was in university, I owned. I think I started as a fashion entrepreneur. If a supposedly client, even though we were both students then, who currently works for Passenger, I used to help him with pattern protection, some kind of non-conflict agreement, and then I moved into fashion. So fashion was practically my first experience with IP. And after that, I owned the first studio in OAU, and I was the first student who started the record label when I was in university in OAU also. And so I practically had much hands-on experience in managing artists, getting contracts, managing studio sessions, split sheets, because obviously then majority of students didn't have money to pay for a studio session. So I would give studio sessions for free in exchange for distribution rights. As at then, digital distribution wasn't really popular. We only had Spinlet then, and even Spinlet was way before its time. And I used to remember then that I have to travel to Lagos with flash drive and CDs to give it to Munya at Free Me Digital then. So even before I knew what copyright was and IP was, which was then a course that was taught I think I was taught in our fourth year in university. I was already doing IP and copyright in the third year. I was already involved in everything that I need to do in intellectual property in second year. But obviously then I was using, called ECO, like young man's knowledge, law students' knowledge to just get this thing done. When I got to part 4, I did not do intellectual property, actually. I went for law and medicine because, I mean, as a student then, my focus was passing and graduating. It wasn't about, and then the lecturer that was teaching IP then wasn't really going to, because I checked the curriculum and I realized that they were not going to teach anything about music. It was just intellectual property law in Nigeria, and then it was just basically the substantive part of IP. So I wasn't really interested. But between part four and law school, I had several gigs where I had to come to Lagos to come for Nigeria Entertainment Conference. And attending those music conferences was one of the things that first sparked a desire in me, because at the conferences that I was attending, there were so many disputes. There was piracy disputes, there was COSON, MCSN disputes, there were so many disputes that I knew that ignorantly then, later I learned that I feel like a lawyer should be able to solve these problems, like agreement, contract, enforcement. Because if piracy, the right to copy is your right. So if someone is breaching that, you should be able to enforce it. So I had so many questions, and I told myself I was just going to do music law when I come out. And as at that time, there were no music lawyer, to be very honest. What you had was entertainment. What you had was IP lawyers. And I think the biggest IP firm then was Jackson, Eto, and Eddie. They were the only popular firm focused on IP. By the time I was going to come out, there was nothing like music or entertainment lawyer. I can proudly say we made that a thing. I made that a thing, going out publicly, and then you would hear. But after I finished NYC, I worked at an insurance company for a while. I wasn't really happy, so I met Oyinkansola Fawemi Fozadoza and then Olumide Mustafa. Three of us, we formed the IT and a tech and entertainment law firm, focused solely on tech and entertainment. And then we started attending conferences. And at conferences, you would hear stuff like, "What do you mean? There's nothing like a music or entertainment lawyer. It's not in our Nigerian system. It's not going to work. You're either an IP lawyer, you are nothing." I had many lawyers from Jackson, Neto and Eddie, um, Alukwanoye Bode, like many law firms would attack Fozana, and I'd be like, there's something called a fact. IP is just a part of entertainment law. Entertainment law has business and contract, has law and has medicine. When you talk about artists and creative who use drugs, we all know about Michael Jackson's case and his doctor. So entertainment law is wider than intellectual property. Intellectual property just has to do with some set of works that is created by a creative person. But when you say you're an entertainment or a music lawyer, or it's way bigger. It's way bigger, because even in Nigeria, intellectual property law doesn't talk about IP valuation. And IP valuation cuts into royalties reporting, data analysis that is even outside of law circle. But not to bore you, when we started that campaign and we started trying to sign artists, become lawyers, and as we were doing that campaign, a lot of lawyers were joining us on that campaign. But definitely there were a lot of naysayers. There were a lot of people saying, what were you doing as entertainment law? What's entertainment law? Who does entertainment law? Are you guys going to ever make money? But we're making money more than even a lot of traditional lawyers. It's the reason why I can say in like 4 or 5 years being in the entertainment industry, I've achieved what am I saying? 7 years in the entertainment industry, 8, 9 years as a lawyer called to bar. I can probably say I've done a lot for myself in many ways, both in equity, both in profitability and career, more than even traditional lawyers. But while we were running a law firm, Techno Mobile wanted to start a digital distribution service. So they came to the law firm and they said they needed one lawyer. And I elected to go. Most of my partners said they couldn't do 9 to 5 because they felt like there was more to do. So when I joined Boomplay, and that was probably supposed to be my second experience, my first experience was with Spinlet as a marketing person and there's an external solicitor. But when I got into Boomplay, I was more in the company. And from 2016 that I joined Boomplay to 2019, I did a lot for Boomplay. I can't begin to say everything here. But the things I did as an entertainment lawyer for Boomplay, in the period of 3 years, I got promoted 4 times. From being a Nigerian lawyer to becoming director of legal and commercials at China, at the board company. And one of the things I pride myself I did from the company was that I was able to, because we needed to sign artists directly, as you would know, in Nigeria, they're nothing like labels. We have more independent artists than major labels. In fact, there's no major label in Nigeria. All the labels we have in Nigeria are boutique labels, small labels. and we needed to sign artists directly. I had to start translating contracts to local languages like Swahili, in Ghana, and then Swahili has three versions, and then French. And because we wanted artists to understand what we were doing, and we needed them to be part of the product to become successful. So even as an entertainment lawyer, my experience had to push me outside of my legal work to become a business developer, to become a language person, and then to become an administrator. And then from there, we needed to expand. We're growing so fast, we needed to expand to Ghana, Tanzania, Ivory Coast, Kenya. And then at that point, because of my network with lawyers, I had to wear the hat of an HR, because we had to employ people who understood what we wanted to do, who had the knowledge of music or who had the passion, and then we could empower also. So I set up Boomplay in Tanzania, in Kenya, and in Ghana. And I was able to train at least 10 staff in each country in a space of a year to teach them music business. So it was a good and sweet experience. And one of the third thing I did that crowned it up was before I left the company, I was able to raise $20 million for the company before I left for MTN. So the most another interesting part about that, working in that space where you had to be creative, you had to consider two sides of a coin. That is, I had to consider the industry because I was coming from the industry, but I also had to consider that I was working for an employer. So there should be conflict of interest. There was a lot of labor law issues that had to be coming in. I mean, I was an entertainment, music, and film lawyer. What what how labor came in, because there were many instances where we would have signed an artist would have given us their rights, and then a mail just come from nowhere saying, "No, cease and desist, you're going to sue you," and that's just to say, "Oh no, I only signed them for one album, but these 7 albums are my own." And then the owner of the record will bring the agreement, and you'll see an employment contract employing the artist for 7 years and to create 7 albums in 7 years. It becomes I started having what we call obviously I did arbitration, but not to that level. So because of the job requirement, I had to start having arbitration skills to solve disputes, so that just so disputes would not affect our own business. And that kind of gave me a much more wider experience dealing with artists across Africa. And there were a lot more jobs I had to do, skills like tech skills, ability to do data analysis, understanding the language of tech development guys to know how we can change things. And building myself all through those years finally got me to MTN now, MTN Group, where I'm now head of legal and licensing, when I license catalog, deal with record labels, deal with content providers, advise the company of best practices on reporting royalties. And in all those years, I was able to invest in a lot of companies because there were so many problems that needed to be solved. And I couldn't solve it alone. One man can't change the whole world. You hear one man can change the world, but one man can light the pot and you make other people follow through. And because of that, I had to sponsor a royalties company currently led by Titila Yadeshoga, RLR, because we needed to be able to audit people. There was no one auditing royalties. I had to invest in a rights management administration company called DMC, which is led by Fosa. I had to invest in an academy, in a non-profit academy to develop producers the right way, which is the SARS Academy. So by the way, I'm the co-founder of SARS Academy, SARS and I, that now has Prime. So along my journey, because there were so many problems that needed to be solved, I had to create companies and entities that could solve those problems. Even though they were telling so much on my pocket, I wouldn't lie. But looking back now, 5 years down the line now, and how all those companies are taking on roles and solving problems, I'm not actively involved in them, but they're making money, they're employing people, they're changing lives, they're settling disputes. It makes me come to terms that, being an entertainment lawyer is not just necessarily maybe a music movie lawyer, because you deal with human beings. You are more of a social engineer than a normal lawyer, because you're dealing with product that humans create. I mean, humans are the engine room. Then because you really find it hard for human beings to detach themselves from what they create, you learn so much skills on the way, and you need so much requirement to be able to solve problems. And when you're solving those problems, you must come with some sense of empathy, some sense of support. And before you know it, you're not just a lawyer, you're a social engineer fixing problems every day, because when you fix one and it works for a while, there's going to be a need to refix and to check. So, I mean, it's more than that, but that's my journey so far in the, in the African music, movie, and entertainment space.
Wow, I'm so impressed, sincerely, because like I thought that I was even doing something safe, but after listening to your story, I know that there's a lot to learn, and I've already told myself like by the time we are done with this mentorship session, I will still go back and actually to um, listen to everything you said because it makes a lot of sense. And um, as someone who is also starting up in the industry, I know that it's not so easy to have to juggle a lot of all these things and have to think and think and think of creative solutions consistently and try to build. So the fact that you have been able to build, one of the things that I know that would have actually really helped is like I think you also have a good support structure, and I think that's very commendable. So I want to ask, is there anybody here that has a question? We can start taking your questions before I start asking my own questions. Bernice, Clarice, Christina.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Thank you so much for this amazing session. Mine, it's not a question. I just want to understand the music business. I want to understand these contracts. I hear about 360 deals. I hear about master copies. In fact, the other day where Kanye was ranting about his contract. So I just want to understand the gist about all that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Clarice.
Do you want me to take that?
Yes, yes.
Clarice, in music, there are like so many contracts. Is limitless. I can start mentioning them right now just to make you know. I know what I'm saying. Like there's production contract, there's A&R contract, there's marketing contract, there's manager contract, there's management contract, there's road management contract, there's live manager contract, there's touring contract, there's 360 deal, there's catalog deal, there's repertoire deal, there's licensing, there's acquisition. The contract in music is limitless. Because don't forget, in music and creative industry generally, it is two human beings dealing with each other. And most of the time, it's human beings dealing with each other. And most of the time, same humans don't want the same thing from each other all the time. Mr. A wants something, Mr. B wants something else, Mr. C wants something else, and the list goes on. So usually when you hear titles or name of contract, just have it at the back of your mind that it is just a title. What is important in the music contract, in any contract in the creative industry, is the content. I've seen 360 deals that are no deal. They are nothing. It's just a one lawyer who went online to just print contract, but didn't even know what he or she was printing. I've seen management contracts that are actually 360 deals. In front of the contract, they wrote management contract, but the content of it is a 360 deal. And as you know, we as lawyers, the court will always follow the substance and not the form. So when you hear so much contract, forget the title that you hear. I mean, this is a secret I'm letting out to you from the bag. Anybody, you can have a 360 contract and just call it a record label contract. It doesn't really matter. But what makes a contract is the content of the contract and what parties are agreeing to. Now, for instance, you would see a multiple rights contract is the same thing as 360 degrees contract. It's the same thing as a record label contract. It's the same thing of multiple representation contract. It's all just linguistics and syntax, usually used to convince lawyers or confuse lawyers that are not good at what they do. When you say 360 degrees multiple rights contract, it's just saying 360 degrees round. That is all the rights. Multiple rights, more than one right. So when you see 360 degrees contract and multiple rights, it's just saying, oh, as a human, that is as an artist, we want multiple rights in what you create. We want rights to your artwork. We want rights to your image. We want rights to your music. We want rights to your vocal rendition. We want rights to your composition. We want rights to your performance. And the list goes on depending on the creative skills. I've seen a contract where the artist owns all the rights, but the label kept the rights to the artist's name. And it's called an artist contract. No multiple, no 360. Just said everything in this contract belongs to you, but the name is ours. And for using the name, you are paying us 50%. So it doesn't matter. And don't forget, the only way you know a song belongs to Wizkid is because of the what? It's because of the name. So, the 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 definition of a contract is always going to be in the obligations of both parties and the rights that are being transferred. So when you see any contract and you see those bogus name in front of it, just flip it open. Don't bother yourself about the title. Find two things. What is the obligation in this contract, and where are they using transfer or license? If I were you, put it on Microsoft Word and just spread license and transfer. Anywhere you see where somebody's giving something to a third party, that is what defines what the contract is. All the other terms are just syntax. So I don't want to bore you with telling you all kinds of contracts, but I want to let you understand the core so that when you see any kind of contract, you already know what it is. It doesn't matter the bogus names. When you just open that contract, you look for obligations of both parties and you look for what rights or what intellectual property is somebody claiming. So I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Yes, you have. Thank you. Oh, and what about the master copies? What are master copies?
So master. So in the olden days, master copies used to be when you go to the studio and you sing. In those days where they use a big studio, master copies is the original that you sang on in one big CD. That is the original, right? It's called the master because it's the king, it's the master, it's the first of its kind. It is that master copy you now take to printing plant and then you duplicate, right? Am I correct? So, but in this new age of digital age, masters are just songs. They're the songs you listen to. So they interchangeably masters, sound recording, or song. They all mean the same thing. Because the other reason why they also call it a masters is in those days, there are always two kind of people in the studio. The person who wrote the song and the person who's going to perform the song, that is sing the song. So Clarice is in the studio, she's a songwriter. Bernice is also in the studio, she's a singer. Both of them, one person can sing, one person can write, songwriter and performer. Both of them will not enter into the studio. When Bernice trying to sing la la la, Clarissa will say, no, that's not why I wrote it. The way I wrote it is la 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 la, and then Bernice will take it again. Now, when Bernice finally sings it the way Clarissa wrote it, it means two things came together. The songwriting by Clarice and the performance by Bernice. Two of those things come together to form what? A master. Because two ingredients, rice and palm oil, forming jollof. So that's one of the reasons why they call it master. So anytime Bernice or Bernice record label wants to reproduce master, so they want to make 1,000 copies of those masters, they have to pay Clarice what we call publishing. So Clarice will say, I want 5 naira for every copy of these masters. So if Bernice record label is going to do 1,000 copies of the masters, that means Clarice is getting $5,000. If Bernice says, oh, we sold the first 1,000, we want to sell the next 20,000, that means they're going to pay Clarice 20,000 times 5 naira. But as in law, agreement can be in many ways. Clarice can say, for the first 1,000, because I don't know if this will sell, I'm going to take $1. But if you finish the 1,000, that means the record is selling, and you want to print the next 1,001 to 5,000, my money is going to go up to $3. And if you print from the next 5,001 to 10,000, then on each of those ones, my money is going to be $16. So as you know, law is very, I'm not going to go into all those nitty strategic details. But, and that the reason why it is called masters is because of where the copies come from. And those copies are what you are going to be paid your publishing rights and also the performing rights, because Bernice is also going to be paid performing rights. So if the label prints 100 copies and they're paying Clarice, let's say $2 for every copy for the mechanical rights, they're probably going to be paying Bernice $5 also for the performing rights, which is equal to $7. So they'll add that $7 to the manufacturing cost of $2, which is $9. Then they'll probably take it to the market for $20. So it means that their profit at the end of the day is probably going to be around $11 because Bernice and Clarice have already taken $9. It's that $11 labels and distributor and all will share among themselves. So, it's just letting you understand why, masters are very important. Even when you're in the studio these days and you record a song and you call it the master, it is that masters that you distribute to Apple Music. And for every time somebody subscribes on Apple Music and they listen, for every time they listen, they are copying. And there's a unit, even if it's zero, even if it's 20 cents, that's one of your listens cost. Out of that 20 cents, they're going to remove copying rights and performing rights, which usually goes to publishers who will now share it between the performer, publishers who will share it to the songwriter, and CMOs who will share it to the performers. So it's obviously it's a more complex thing where if you study it, you eventually get it, but that's where masters originated from.
Wow. Thank you very much. It actually sounds complex, but if you actually go and study it, you would actually start getting it gradually. So, Bernice asked the question: how important is specialization in the practice of law? Is it advisable for a young lawyer to specialize early?
First of all, it's poor in Nigeria that we don't specialize. It causes brain drain, and you are lost. For the first 10 years, you waste your life finding your food, and that's even if you get it in the first 10 years. I always tell anyone, nobody was born a genius. That's what I believe. Anybody can be a genius because I've seen artists that are so good that they have so much talent, but they're just not as successful as people who are hardworking and putting their all. So I don't believe that there's nothing anyone can be good at. If you choose a specific field that you have passion about, not necessarily money, you're going to make money from it. If you choose environmental law, which is probably the most boring and they say unrealistic in Nigeria, you will still make money if you're passionate about it. Money will come one way or the other. I mean, because I didn't start making money from entertainment law until my second, third year practicing entertainment law. I was one putting my money in the hands of artists. So I usually say, if you can't afford to specialize, obviously go for the general till you find what you're looking for. But if God has given you the grace to be able to at least afford some basic things yourself, you're going to do yourself a huge service to pick what you like, passionate about, and just follow it through. It always pays. I've met many people who will tell me it always pays off. It takes time, but it always pays off because the hours you dedicate to your specialty, you can never dedicate it to everything. I mean, I don't know anything about litigation. I just don't lie to you guys. I read a lot of law reports. I have Law Pavilion. I have Lexus. I have all those things. I read court decisions on IP and everything, but that's all there is. If there's a court case today, I have 100 lawyers line written for me to take my brief. Obviously, I'll be the one to draft the motion. I'll be the one to draft the address. I'll review the address to make sure that the arguments are fact-based and the arguments that can win. But I don't know procedural process in court, and I don't intend knowing it because I don't have no passion for it. And I turned down real estate is one of the richest. I mean, according to lawyers, one of the most juiciest practice. I don't do real estate. Every time I do real estate, I'm always angry because it's just not my thing, you know. And so when I get real estate brief, I give it to lawyers and I say, okay, whatever you make, pass something down to me if it's worth it. Some of them laugh at me and say, but you can do this. I'm like, yeah, I can do it, but it's not my field. I'd rather leave it to you guys that it's your field to make your money. If you ever get IP brief, send it my way. I'll be fine. Because the time I will spend doing real estate law, I'd rather spend it studying, spend it, doing things like that. And that's why, I usually tell people I know my job. When it comes to entertainment law, tech, and intellectual internet law and policy, you can't find me wanting. I'm always on top. But if you ask me for any other thing, I have basic knowledge, but beyond basic knowledge, I do not have. Even criminal law, apart from mens rea, actus reus, I don't know ingredient of law. I have no judicial precedent knowledge of it. If anyone brings a criminal case to me, I'm always speaking based on might, may, should. I never tell you anything concrete. I tell you you need to get a criminal lawyer. So that's it. So it's up to you.
Okay. Does anyone else have a question? Okay, Christina, you can ask your question. Yes, Christina, you can ask your question. Sorry, your internet is not really stable. Is it?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but it's not so stable. So I would advise that you can actually type your question and I'll read it out if it's okay.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so while she's typing her question,
Yeah.
Christina, you can just quickly type your question since your internet is not so strong. Okay, so while she's typing her question, I wanted to also find out. So, for a lawyer that is just starting and has decided that they want to specialize in entertainment law, and probably they have not really seen a firm that they can work with, or a place where they can do their internship. Maybe they are just doing personal studies, etc. And while they are doing this and they are talking about themselves to people that who are an entertainment lawyer, etc., what if clients starts making requests on help me draft this contract, help me um, through this negotiation, etc., and they are not so knowledgeable knowledgeable about it? How are you going to advise those who are just starting in the entertainment law industry if they don't have so many if they don't have experience and they don't have people to really guide them, and probably they are not working with others?
Well, to be very honest, I'll be straightforward. I didn't start all alone. What I had was passion, and I don't know. I'm sure if everyone here is really serious about entertainment law, you would know um Uduak website, African Music Law. That was my first contact to having good ground knowledge before I went to do masters and then started studying on my own, then belonging to many lawyers group and becoming an honorary member for a while of the United States Black Entertainment Lawyer. So you have to find a source, because the problem with entertainment law and music law and tech law is that it's a field that is always emerging, it's always revolving, it's very dynamic, things are always changing, best practices are always moving from one to another, particularly in the creative sector. Best practices always change, particularly with the tech and particularly with the accountability. And the more you do not know, if you don't know, oh, these are the standard required of a split sheet. These are now the standard required of a metadata. These are the standard that is required of royalties reporting. You become outdated as a lawyer, and then you begin to see new stuffs when you're working for your client, and you become confused. So I always say, find a source, find where you know information is constantly updated, and there's many online. I mean, there's musicbusinessworldwide.com, there's africamusiclaw.com. There are many, and there are even many entertainment lawyers now that you can follow, that you can pick information from here and there, and then you can ask them questions for guidance. I have entertainment lawyers who send me their contracts, like the final approved contract in their company. They say, Ire, I trust you. Can you please have one last look? You know, I have lawyers, my friend, my classmate in uni is now the head legal for Film One. He sends me a lot of contracts for him to look at just with a third eye. I have a colleague, Foza, who's actually the one running the firm. I sent her contracts and I'm like, Foza, I know I'm this contract, I'm just confused. Did I couch this? This is what I'm trying to achieve. Did I couch the statement right? Because no one is master of law. Even Lord Denning, our supposed Lord Denning, still had dissenting issues in some instances and had majority instances. That always tells you that the way we reason is different, and somebody else might just have the answer. So most times I don't just, I mean, obviously I don't go around asking lawyer, share me your draft, share me your draft. That's a bad practice. You know, I rather tell people like, oh, I'm trying to look for this draft. If you have, can you give it to me, or can we do this work together? Because I do that many times. If I don't have a draft and I know somebody might have it, I'll tell someone, can you please share me this your draft? On this brief, this first brief, we'll share the money. Subsequent ones, I'll be able to use the draft. So, and that has given me the opportunity to be friends with so many lawyers that when news, I mean, you saw when you joined the entertainment law, we usually share articles, you know, because, you know, we just felt like that's how we do, even before we formed the group, you know. So for me, you have to find a source. You have to find a source where information is regularly updated, and then that keeps you updated with the current practices, issues, because you know no issues are totally in isolation. What happened to an artist today could happen to your client. What happened to your artist once and that you didn't know how to do it might happen to somebody else, and you realize that somebody else has done it before, and then you can apply it to yourself. And you can even issues that happen to other people can help you avert a lot of problems with your client. So that's how it works.
Okay, thanks, Ire. Let me read Christina's question. She said, I want to know how you acquired knowledge because most of the terms you mentioned are quite new to me.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing that you asked. Um, you would always come across new terms every day. I have a glossary. I don't know if I can share a file here, so I can just share that with you. I have a glossary for music industry words. And okay, this is it. This is a glossary of terms in the music industry. I'm just going to share it in this group. I think I bought it that time, so I've shared it in the chat. You see a lot of terms used widely in the music industry that you can learn from there. And you know, that are many more. You would actually come in sometimes when you're just reading an article and you have to go and find out what does this mean. And sometimes terms are used interchangeably based on territories. Let me give you an instance. It's called masters in the US. It's called sound recording in the in the UK and in Nigeria. It's called literary work in Nigeria. It's called compositions in the US. So, you know, sometimes don't let the word bamboozle you. You just need to know what the word is defining. It's what the word is defining that you really want to know, because you might actually have another word for it, or you might have a replacement for it. So the best way to stay updated is to always read articles. You know, sometimes some articles are really boring. You can skim through to see if it gets your interest. But the way I get to know about so many issues is because I read articles. I read a lot than I usually talk publicly. You know, if it's not for Juliana, I'll probably never be here. She's very important. So she's a very important person to me. So obviously, yeah. And I spend more time reading than trying to go out there to show that I know. You know, I'd rather read for 6 months and have the opportunity just to talk for maybe a day than speaking all around 7 months and don't even know what is going on in the world or the best practices. So you, as a lawyer, generally, you are what you consume intellectually. So you can't know stuff that you do not read. It's only when you read you know stuff. If you don't read, you can't know. Even though I explain it to you from today to tomorrow and I draw the draft, you won't still get it until you read it yourself, make mistakes, and then do it.
Okay. So are you okay, Christina? Does anyone else have a question? While I'm waiting for someone to decide if they have a question or not. So I want to ask about sampling. Please, can you explain what sampling is? Because we hear a lot of things, sampling, sampling. What's sampling?
So I'm going to use what a lot of women and maybe some men in university are very familiar with. It is the best way to explain it. You you cooked you cooked like fried stew yesterday, or let's assume Bernice cooked fried stew yesterday, and that fried stew is so sweet, but you just don't know the ingredients that Bernice used in cooking it, but you like that flavor. So Bernice left like half of a bowl. So instead of you cooking Bernice own and making mistake, you took that Bernice own, washed it into a new pot, then now cooked a new soup. What you've done is that you've sampled Bernice soup. It will not be exactly Bernice soup, but it will have some of the flavor from Bernice soup, right? So it's the same thing. Sampling is, cutting out a part of a popularly known music or somebody's released music or work, and they're putting it in your own song, either across or in one place. So let me know. Let me. I mean, the popular case of what's the song? I don't know if everybody listened to African Lion King by Beyonce. And when you look at track 2 and track 3, it sampled Saz and Niola's song. You know, there are many songs. There's the one of Tiwa and Small Doctor, Tiwa and Danny Young. There's a lot. I probably can't just remember anyone off my head right now, but it's just cutting a part of a previously released song and putting it to your own new song, so that the familiarity of that old song becomes a part. So when you know a popular song, hear this new song, you think it's that old song, but it's a new song with the flavor of the old song, and that kind of gets people's attention. Now, what you've simply done is ripped off someone's work, and you need to pay for it. You need to pay the owner of the song, of the masters, and you need to pay the owner of the sound recording inside the song, of the lyrics inside it, if there's any lyrics inside it. So that's what sampling is. I hope I made it simple.
Yes, you did. So what's the difference now between sampling and cover song?
Oh no, cover song is re-singing the old song, re-singing the song in a different way. So Bernice now said, instead of you cutting Bernice, instead of you taking Bernice soup, which is sampling, you went to Bernice and said, Bernice, I want to know I want to cook exactly this thing. And Bernice says, okay, you know what? I won't give you all the ingredients. I'm going to give you the Maggi, the thyme, the pepper, and the oil. You go and find the rice. I mean, you go and find the tomato. So what Bernice has done is has given you some ingredients for you to do a cover of it. By the time you cook it, it won't be exactly Bernice's food, but it's going to be a version of a food, and that's cover. So cover is you creating another version of some. I mean, obviously, Simi started with covers. So covers, yeah. So covers usually happen either when you take the beats and you sing the lyrics over it, or you sing the beat and the lyrics, but just with different key or different tune, or in a different with a mixed direction. So I'm sure you hear about this guy who covered Senat song in English, a song that is in pidgin and local language. He resang it in English, and the song made Billboard chart. So it is Senat's cover. So the songwriter is Senat, but the person who sang the song is that white guy. If you understand what I'm saying. So Senat got the Billboard Songwriter Award, but she's not the owner of the song because it was a cover, but the person covered that song.
Okay, because one of the things that we see a lot is people doing a lot of covers, and then they tell you that they acknowledged the person that.
But that's not right. You can take it down if you want. It's still an infringement. The reason why people say that is because covers are not meant to be monetized. It's more like saying creative freedom. Like, yeah, but it doesn't make it that you can't do a cover of a Beyonce song. It will be taken down. Because you do a cover doesn't necessarily mean what you've done is legal. It's you and even though if actually you don't monetize it, it doesn't still matter. People just believe that, oh, it's a cover, I'm not monetizing it, so let me leave it up. But that doesn't matter. Before you can alter, use, copy, license, exploit. So it's not just exploitation only, not just making money, but copy, use, alter somebody's literary work or copyright, so work protected by copyright, you have to get a license. It doesn't matter. So saying that you've not exploited it does not absolve you of that responsibility.
Okay. So if you have a question, please just raise your hand or put it in the comment section that you have a question so that we can ask Ire every question before he leaves. So while I'm waiting for someone to indicate that they have a question, I would also like to find out for mechanical royalties, do we have any law in Nigeria that addresses that, based on even the payment structure, etc., or are we just running it based on the laws of other countries and trying to maximize it that way? Because I know that a lot of singers here are signed to foreign CMOs, etc. So, and
So
when you go to the Copyright Act, I don't see anything about
yeah,
mechanical royalty.
but,
Yes.
so in the Copyright Act, you're going to see the formation of CMOs, collective management organization, who are supposed to regulate all other businesses. So that is where mechanical was covered. CMOs were created because the law tells you to get a license to copy. Licensing without copying is illegal. Now, the rules of copying is what CMOs are supposed to handle. And that's where mechanical comes out. What we do that flat fee for copying, that is mechanical rates. And that's why there's problem in Nigeria. No law has enshrined the rates, or like other countries. So that's what we just don't have in Nigeria, that we usually rely on maybe what is the best practice in the world, because also we are also signatories to global treaties. So in that way, that passes down to us. But because copyright is territorial, no matter the time of treaties you sign, copyright IP is territorial, and what you just do is you adopt best practices. You can't enforce it on other people. What we do is just to make sure we go. But obviously, when it comes to copying and using somebody's work legally, you are bounded by the law. What you will pay is what the law did not say. So you are supposed to pay mechanicals, but what you pay is what the law did not say. So even if Kuson is suing you to pay something, you have to pay. But what will you pay is something that is left to Kuson to decide as the owner of the work. You cannot go to court and say, I agree that I have infringed. But what this person is asking me to pay is not reasonable, is overtly too much, because there's nothing in the law that specifies the amount.
Okay. Okay.
And as for, it's not right to use anybody's song for anything at all. Although there's something called creative freedom, but under the law, it's for education, cultural expression, scientific and academic research. Anything that doesn't cover those three things, you shouldn't use somebody's song, whether short or long at all. Obviously, if you use it quickly, maybe 15 seconds, 10 seconds, in a media, maybe in media reporting and everything, you're covered by what we call fair usage. But fair usage is very relative. Fair usage is not left to humans to decide. Fair usage is usually determined in court. So even if you're pleading fair usage, it's not your role to determine fair usage. It's the court's role. The person has to sue you first, then you now plead fair usage. It's not you that you say, oh, I'm using it under the doctrine of fair usage. The doctrine of fair usage is applied by the law, not by an infringer.
Okay. Okay. So if so I think you were you were answering Clary's question about
Yes, yes.
that a follow-up to the question is that to use 30 seconds of the music on a vlog slash video on YouTube, is it okay as people say? And so he's saying that whatever you take, you're supposed to get like a license for it, and that
Yeah,
even if you
and
say that
and
it
and,
falls under the videos,
and that's why
that is
YouTube is always in trouble. Because and then
okay.
YouTube now did what we call the sound bank. So you don't need to use other people's music. You can use music from the sound bank. And although if you use people's music, there's a way around it now on YouTube. The owners of the music will come and claim it on your channel, which means you'll start taking money from your channel. So whatever money, so what you start seeing is that, oh, you did a video on YouTube, music is playing, somebody's displaying ad on your video, but you are not getting money. It is the person who owns the music who has detected that you're using the music, so they are monetizing their music on your page, but you won't be making money.
Very true. So if you still have a question, please just raise your hand or you can type your question, whichever, and I will allow you to ask your question. So is it okay to in drafting a publishing agreement, is it okay to say that the payment rate will be, let's say, the 9.1 cents that is being used in the US? Can you say that? And if you actually say that and there is a dispute, where would the jurisdiction of the court be? And what law would now apply if it's an international agreement, let's say between a Nigerian and someone in the US that wants to do a cover song of a
Where's the
Nigerian?
origin? What's the origin of the song? That's the first question.
It's a Nigerian
So
music.
Nigerian law, so it's governed by copyright of Nigerian law because copyright exists immediately you create it. You don't even have to register. You only notify is notification, notifying the law that I have prior rights. So the origin of the work determines the law. So if you say this is Simi's song was created where in Nigeria, but imagine a place where Simi recorded that song in US. What law will apply? It's the United States law because it was created within that territory. Is if Simi recorded the song in US studios, in the studio in the US, it's governed by the US law because it was created there.
Okay.
But because she's also a Nigerian, if she brings the song back home and they release it back home, then it gets governed in Nigeria. Am I correct? So,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. It's the same way what digital has not done now. If you release a song in Nigeria, but publish it on US iTunes, on that US iTunes that it sits, it becomes a US property. You can institute an action on it. The only person that has a right over you over that song is somebody who is going to register it in the copyright office in the US, claiming that it is own till it is rebuffed by someone else. So when you have kind of agreement, the first question is where was the song created? Where is the originating country? If you know the originating country, then the law of the originating country governs. But if both parties have agreed to a specific region, obviously where conflict of laws kicked in, both parties have agreed in the previous agreement that, oh, although the song was created in Nigeria and me, I'm a US citizen, but both of us want United States Arab Emirates UAE agreement to govern this contract, then the law will not, the law will not come in between what both of you have agreed willingly to come and change the
Okay.
status quo. Exactly. So where both of you have agreed to use another law, then there's no conflict of laws. But you have agreed. You have agreed that you don't want to use the laws where both of you are from. So when somebody
Okay.
puts in a contract and say, "Oh, I want 9 cents, I want everything," is negotiable. So, oh, that's the US rate. Oh, it's the US rate, but I'm not using this. The use is not going to be popular in US. It's going to be in Nigeria, and no one's going to pay that amount in Nigeria. The revenue that will even come from the work is not going to be that much. So that 9 cents is not 9 cents or $9 1 cent is not justifiable.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone else have a
You're
question?
welcome.
Michelle, Bernice, okay. Michelle, Bernice, Clarice, Christina. Okay. So I'll just ask two more questions, and if there's no more question, then we'll just round up. So my question is on split sheets. Does split sheet cover both the sound recording and the composition, or split sheet is basically for just the composition? Because you like hear stories of split sheet, and people will be asking, can we also cover the digital royalty part in the split sheet agreement, or is it just for the composition? So we are looking at maybe the producer and the songwriter for the split sheet, or it's possible
Split
to
sheet is for a
split
song.
both the composition and the record. Okay.
Split sheet, split sheet is for a song, you know, it's for a song. So whatever in the song is being splitted should be splitted in the sheet. If the sound recording is being splitted, let it reflect. If the publishing, the mechanicals is being split, whatever needs to be reflected as a split. Usually because the sound recording is not in a split, it's usually owned by one label, so nobody bothers about it. It's usually under a contract. But where maybe everybody's just my guy, no label before, we all just went to the studio to record. Obviously, we'll both split the sound recording and split also both the composition, the mechanicals. And the reason why most people don't split sound recording is because obviously it's one person that's doing the marketing. It's going to be released by one person. So everybody just leaves it to that person and say, okay, you go and market it and get the money. We'll just collect our own publishing. But the truth is, a split everything. It's just based on what you want. What are you splitting?
Okay. Okay. Um, Finally, I'll be asking pricing. So, as a young lawyer, or as a lawyer, or someone who is enthusiastic about the music industry and wants to go into that space, how is the pricing like? How are you able to determine your price? How are you able to increase your price, etc? How are you able to talk with clients who will just call and say, oh, I want to pick your brain, or what do you think, or I'm a startup lawyer, startup singer, oh, I'm an upcoming singer, I don't have, and all that. Like, how? So even if you say you want to start doing things free, so at what point do you start saying, okay, no, you have to pay for this? And how is the rate like? Like, how are you able to determine, okay, this is what my fees should be like?
So please, I need to jump on another call in 4 minutes. I'm so
Okay,
sorry.
it's
But
fine.
let me say this. I started on the very wrong foot. You know, I was offering people free services and I was sometimes asking for shares. But you see, it's a very huge mistake. Somebody who can pay you 5,000 naira will never pay you $5,000. And once you let a client have access to free work once, they never want to ever pay. They'd rather even pay somebody else outside and pay you. So I always say this. Anyone that comes to you, the first question is, what is your budget? And I'll rather do, if I'll rather, let me give you an instance. I've had somebody who had just 50,000 naira because his label said he should go and bring the contract. That the label said, I don't want to sign, I'll go and bring the contract. Then when I sign you, I want you to bring the contract that you're okay with. And he came to me and said, I don't have money. I said, okay. So draft the label contract is 250,000 in multiple rights. How much did you say? 50? I said, okay. So I did and that's what I do. I'll do a bill, I'll write 250,000 naira, and I'll do discount of 200,000. So you're paying me 50. So you know the value of what I gave to you. If
Okay.
you want me to do something of 100,000 to you and you have 5,000 naira, I'll write 100,000 there. I'll put discount of 90,000, 95,000 naira, and I'll collect the 5,000. I'll tell you. So you know the value of what I gave to you, and you know that I gave you money. I just did not, you didn't get me for cheap. I gave you money.
Yeah.
So sometimes I usually tell people that I'll pay for. I'll tell people that, oh, my firm is the one that will do it, but I'll pay for it. So even though I tell my firm that I will remove it from my subsequent income, I will send bill to that person like, this is the bill from the law firm, but I've paid for it. because the last thing you want is somebody gets used to getting free advice. Even advisory. So for someone like me, I charge $100 per hour. I'm sure you'll have seen that on my bottom of my bio. I charge $100 per hour. Even if you can't afford it, I still send you a bill telling you it is all right, $100 per hour, 2 hours, $100, but paid for. Because you must know the value of what you got from me. Knowledge is value. And if we as IP lawyers that we work solely with IP cannot put a price to our own intellect, how do we put price to our client's intellect? So that's how pricing works, you know. So even sometimes you want to charge someone 50,000, better to write it that, oh, and this is the invoice, it's 200,000, but I'm giving 200,000 discount and I'm taking 50, I'm paying 50K. But never ever give anyone service for free. Make sure they part with something. You will never regret it, because the moment you let them part for free, they're going to keep coming back. And when you start asking for money, they'll leave you and go to another lawyer to start free with that lawyer. And when that lawyer too wants money, they keep jumping around like that. And no client is too big to pay you. If they're really big and they're rich, let them pay you. So a client tells you, do you know what I am? I'm whiskey, and that's why you should pay me. If you're really whiskey, then you should have money in your pocket.
Hey, wow. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to
pleasure.
us. Thank you for the words of wisdom. Thank you for sharing practical experiences in this IP space with us. And I'm sure that everybody here has been able to get one thing or the other. If you have any question that you were not able to ask for any reason, you can just share it on the group and I'll forward it to Iri, and then he'll be able to get back to you. And so for everyone that is watching on Facebook or might watch this subsequently, you can always follow him online on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, etc. Iredumare, and you would not regret it because he has a lot of materials and resources that you can always get from. So thank you very much, and we'll see ourselves next week Friday. Thank you, Ire. Thank you so much. My regards to your family, and I wish you all the best throughout the year and always. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julian. I'm looking forward to speaking to you on the other side, and anytime. And it's glad to be in this small, not so large circle where we can just talk and ask questions. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
It was nice meeting you, and hoping to connect soon.
Thanks. So take care of yourselves, ladies, and
thank you, Miss Juliana.
Thank you. So next week we'll be having a session on ADR, and the person that is coming to talk to us is, I think, certified by WIPO. So she actually does like a lot of alternative dispute resolution with WIPO, and I think it's something that we would actually benefit from. So let me not come here and be the one asking all these questions. What I do is to drop who is coming and their specialty, and it's good for you to at least read on it, research on it, so that you can ask valuable questions. For Mr. Ire that came now, people heard his story and all that. So if it's that you had gone to study more about entertainment, but it would have been easier for you to ask more questions. And then, so for next week, the person that will be coming is actually going to be talking about alternative dispute resolution as it relates to intellectual property and how to go about it with WIPO. WIPO is World Intellectual Property Organization. So please let us go study about it so that by the time she comes, we would be able to ask questions and relate with her better. So I wish you all the best this weekend, and until we see next week, have a lovely weekend. Bye at weekend.
Bye. You too.
Bye.